Hello! I'm about to make the cutest bachelorette outfit. If you want to see how I go, then stick around. Okay, so I just bought these two different types of fabric. So this light pink one is super stretchy. I want this to be the basis of my top and the sleeves and also the midi skirt. The other fabric is non-stretch and that is for over the top. And then I also bought just a little bit of like pink ribbon and then some thread. I also went to the hardware store and bought a couple of packets of duct tape. Time to start taping up with duct tape. So what I'm gonna do is tape little sort of cap sleeves, tape up my full bodice, and then down to where about a mini skirt would be. So I am going to be taking some cling wrap, wrapping that around first, and then taking the duct tape and taping myself up, and then tracing on the pattern and the look that I'm wanting to do. Okay, this is what we're working with. I literally can't breathe. Trying to find where like this line. Okay, just going over my lines again. Okay, and this is how she looks. Nice and curvy. What I'm gonna do now is cut out the pieces I drew on, trace them onto some paper or cardboard, and then, yeah, kind of define all of my pieces a bit more, and then I should have my pattern. So before I start cutting anything, I'm just going to try and spread the weight of this front section. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the booty section because spreading the weight of all of this is not really working. So firstly, I'm just going to put a jumper underneath and start by drawing that on. Okay, now I am cutting out the top pieces. So for the top, I am just going to trace out the outside, cut it in half, flip this over just to make sure it's symmetrical, then cut my individual pieces only on one side, and then again flip them over and make sure they are all symmetrical. So just cut my pattern in half. I'm just taking it and making sure that this is roughly right. Okay, so it's the sleeve that's a little different. All right, and I have positioned two pencils so that they are a centimeter apart, which will make it much easier to draw on my centimeter seam allowance. Okay, so I'm making flared sleeves at the end because I want it to match the flare of the skirt. So I'm just gonna try to like, I guess just curve this out. Now I have all of my top and bottom pieces cut out. I'm gonna prep some little labels, trace out my pieces onto my fabric, and then get them cut out. Front. And we've got skirt back, piece number 6. Okay, and all of my pieces are cut out and ready to go. So firstly, I'm gonna do my top and then I will move on to do my skirt. To start off my sewing, I'm stitching together all the top pieces. So I'm pinning top piece 2.1 to top piece 3.1, doing right side to right side, and I will do a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Okay, I'm just pressing my boning. Now I'm just making some marks on my top to add in my boning. So I am doing 1.5 down and then 1.5 up from the bottom. I'm also just going to add a couple of pins for exactly where these edge pieces are, because that will be 2 different pieces of boning. So I'm sealing off the top edge to start with. I'm going to be folding this seam towards the middle with the boning attached to it. So I'm going to sew it onto this side here. I've just flipped it over, so checking on the front what angle I should cut that boning to. I'm just going to draw it on and then cut it and heat seal it. Now I'm just attaching my other piece the rest of the way. And now I'm going to add some pins and top stitch this towards the center. All right, and that is what my boning looks like on that angled piece. And that is my boning all done. So I just pinned up this curved section here, but I tried to spread the weight on the other side. Now I am pinning and sewing my sleeves. So I've pinned up my sleeve. So I'm just making sure that this seam line is exactly right. So I'm adding some fusible interfacing to my 2 back pieces just to make them that much stronger for adding in my eyelets, because since this material is stretch, I don't want the eyelets to sort of be pulling the fabric too much when the tie is in and when the top's on. All right, I just tried on the top again. I may have to do something with the shoulders because they are slipping down a bit. So now I'm just going to do a 2 centimeter seam allowance where the eyelets need to go. So I'm going to press this, glue it for extra strength, stitch it, and then work on my hems around the base. And then I'll add in my eyelets and my tie, try it on again and see how I'm looking around the shoulders and that top hem. Back to using my world famous shoe glue. And now I'm just going to sew up 5 mil in around the sides where the eyelets are going to go, and then around the base. Okay, time to add in my eyelets. Here are my eyelets all done. I'm going to add the tie, try it on, and then see what adjustments I still need to make to those shoulder pieces. Tie time. I'm just trying this top on. So this is how it is looking with that tie roughly done up. What I am going to do is add some interfacing to each piece leading up to the shoulder at the back, add a couple of eyelets in, and then create some form of tie or go and buy some more of this tie. Before I add in that additional piece of interfacing and couple of eyelets, I'm just going to stitch around this top line. So I'm just adding the tiniest bit of interfacing. I just added a couple of eyelets into the top right shoulder, and then I flipped it over, placed it on top and lined up that hem, and then I have just marked up where my next ones need to go. All right, and there are my 4 shoulder eyelets that I will put a tie through to keep the shoulders from falling down. So I've just pinned up how I want this to look, so draped it over. What I'm going to do is stitch it into the seam allowance and then just stitch it as if it's one piece of fabric. This is how that front skirt piece is looking. So the sides are all pinned up. So I'm just going to sew maybe 5 mil in to attach this, and then I'll cut my fabric. I might stop just before each end point so that I can cut this bottom piece and sew it up. This material is fraying a lot. So I'm just cutting across this baseline, and then I will stitch it, fold it under, and then finish my stitching on either side. That front piece is now attached. I've just laid my back piece. So this is wrong side up, so as if this was stitched on top. And then I have my front piece, and I'm just going to mark up exactly to where the gathering should go on the back. So it's roughly... I've just pinned the back to match the front. I'm going to pin the skirts together and try it on, because I'm conscious that even though I've got the sizes right on both sides to match the front, that my bum needs to go in here, so it might need to be altered a little bit to make a little bit of extra room. Okay, I've tried it on multiple times and moved the pins and tried to give myself more room, but I'm still not giving myself enough. So I'm gonna sew up this smaller side here because it's correct, and then I'll pin up the skirt fully, try it on again, and then try and repin this side. Okay, that took the longest time. It took maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours to get this done, but I've pinned it into the perfect position, and now I am going to sew it up in the same way I did the front and then the other side of this back. The front and back pieces of my skirt have that satin fabric on top now, and I've trimmed the sides. I also glued between the gap just because I want the seams to be nice and neat. Now I'm going to add some interfacing where I'll be adding my zipper. I just pinned up my zipper, so right side to right side, and left about 4 centimeters. Okay, I've added in my zipper, and now I am just sewing up the rest of this side seam. My seam is all sewn up. I've also glued it flat. Now I'm going to sew up my other seam, try on this skirt, and see whereabouts I should fold the hem for the top and finish the base hem. This is how the skirt is looking. So you can see that brown zipper, which I thought you wouldn't be able to, but it is like a latte brown, so it matches, but yeah, not quite ideal. But the general aesthetic I am happy with. I'm going to finish it off, so I am going to fold over the top hem and then take up the base hem. I'm just pressing the line of the top hem that I just pinned. So I just pinned up 2 centimeters below where I pressed that line. Then I stitched because I need to make sure these 2 pieces are joined together and that this doesn't fray. I folded this over by 1 centimeter, glued it, and then folded it over again because I don't want to see a stitching line on the top edge of this skirt. Completed it, mate. I hope you loved it, and as per usual, I will see you in the next video.